Welcome to the Tunepact podcast. I'm your host, the punk rock pop, Lee Pierce. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about marketing multicultural music, and we're lucky enough to have in the studio Rohini. Thanks for coming. Could you take a minute and tell us about yourself?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. And my name is Rohini. I am a singer, songwriter, and I've invented the name of my own genre. It's called soul fusion because I have different influences in my life as the offspring of immigrant parents in America. And it's a upbringing that I really adore, and then I'm still exposed to all kinds of music. So, soul fusion is the result or the outcome of it all.
Well, and I mean, you creating your own genre, the soul fusion is exactly why I wanted you on today. Because you obviously have strong feelings about the cultural fusion in today's music
Oh
landscape.
yeah.
And how important do you see that nowadays?
I think it's so hard to avoid influence when we have platforms on social media, the radio. We have so much diversity. I think it's just naturally happening when we don't even realize it. We'll listen to certain songs on the radio by a certain artist. They may or may not be from America, but you'll hear it. You'll hear like the nuance. So it's important to recognize for sure that the times have already changed. There is so much diversity, and it's a beautiful thing. And when it comes to creativity in the studio, you can make some incredible things happen on a global level. And with all these diverse influences, just coming together in a song.
Well, yeah, I mean that's you brought up a good point. I mean, even especially when it comes to the studio and the production side of music, it's so important for artists to get out of their own comfort zone. All others, we know you never grow as artists, but that's also especially when it comes to like producing and stuff like that, because you have someone that doesn't normally work in the genre you're working, has tricks and stuff that any producer you've worked
Yep.
with has never done because it's stuff they've never came across. And it can be just so it's just so important to build the things you can learn working with people that
Yep.
aren't in the same genre of music. And that's what I always say about marketing. And that's why I lay out the format of this podcast even is it's never usually specifically about the artist themselves or even their genre of music, because that way the people listening can pick up on these things, because everybody always does, the country singer does what the country singer before him did. Same with the punk
Yeah.
bands and the metal bands. And then they wonder why they're having trouble getting their products out there, getting their music out there, filling their shows. And when you start paying attention and learning from other artists and other genres, it's amazing the things you can learn. And like you said, especially with platforms, everyone's a click away.
It's crazy how accessible sound is from across the world. I don't even have to go to a country. If I, it's my dream to travel to like the Middle East, like Istanbul and Morocco, and I'm like, I could just easily access their songs and their sound on YouTube. Or it sometimes just comes to me. It just ends up in my feed on on Instagram. So it's hard to avoid. There was a time when I was setting boundaries and I was like, I can't listen to like 10 genres, like, but there are days like I'll turn on the radio and there's country music, and then as a fusion artist, I'm like, oh my God, there's like so much overlap. I'm listening to country singing. There is just all this like the technique in the vocals, and even like the way they're playing the guitar sometime, and there's like folk influence in there, the twang, the groove. There is so much similarity you'll find in that sound from different regions of the world, and it's like you can it's easier for us to like label things, put identifiers, and we always have to be genre specific sometimes because yeah, it can get a little crazy. And country music, for example, does have like a very specific identity, and it's filled with a lot of people are very proud of that genre. So yeah, I mean, when we listen to something, we do need to be able to identify it, because maybe that's how our brain reacts. But then there's also that flexibility which I'm talking about, where you can sprinkle in that influence. So yeah, that's where the magic happens sometimes, and it can be a hit or miss. Some people don't like it. They're like, "What did you just do?" It's a risk.
Well, and you got to take risks, but you got to do the stuff that you want to do too. I mean, of course, we all want to be marketable. That's part of the game.
Yes.
That's the other 50%. But sometimes you just got to do it for yourself, and it's not to see if you can do it, but to see what it's going to sound like. You know, you
Right.
got to throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks too. But sometimes you got to have those projects that are just for you. You know,
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. It's just I'm like I have all this, training behind me and training in, Western or Eastern music. It's pretty structured sometimes, right? Especially in the beginning, and they want you to follow the rules, and they want you to follow like this is this and this is that, and but yeah, it's sometimes it's just like you have to figure out how to balance the artist and how the business works. And that could be a gruesome experience because the business does want you to be, for lack of a better word, typecast, as they would say in acting, right? It's kind of similar in music. They want you to be at least, they want you to be in, max, actually, not at least. They want you to be in two genres, maybe three at most, as far as influence, yeah.
oh, that's for sure. I mean, it's trying to market. I couldn't imagine trying to market like a soul fusion style like you to labels that are so genre specific nowadays too.
Yes,
No,
yeah.
they want everybody to be able to fit into two or three categories, but then every damn band on the label sounds identical. You're like, oh, did you hear the new? I'm like, I don't know. I might have. I've heard six other things from that company, but they all sound the same.
I mean, it's the way you look at it. I used to look at it in the beginning. I was like, this is really competitive and it's so cutthroat because they are so specific with the preference and the style. But thankfully, over the years, I've kind of found a space for me to thrive in and grow in. And to be honest with you, it really is. You could go to everybody, but it's going to come back to social media. There's a lot of freedom there, creatively speaking. But yeah, I mean, I do hear about labels, being very specific about their genre. I've even gotten feedback in the past, like rock is rock, and R&B is well. I haven't touched R&B yet.
Yeah.
Haven't touched reggaeton or any of that. I feel tempted to, because my musical ear goes wild when I listen to music like that. Because my body's reacting to it. It knows the groove. Just because musicians, at the end of the day, when you're trained and you know sound, it's in your muscle memory. You might react to any genre across the world, and that's what's happening to me right now. I will listen to music from like the tip of Africa, of South Africa, all the way to Cuba to Russia. I'll just catch on to the groove because that's just I know sound. I haven't been traditionally trained, you could call it like the Suzuki method. And sometimes I say that I have music dyslexia, like when it comes to I can't train like Mozart has trained, right? Or like some traditional pianist has trained. But it's incredible what music can do. And it's again, either you can tell yourself to find that balance, but if you really want to break free, which is something I really love, freedom is something I really, preach. I even have a song called Freedom. And that music can be ultimately about freedom. It's really just about understanding sound and rhythm. That's it.
Oh, excuse me. So, you're talking about with social media. Yeah, I mean, everything, every type of music is at our fingertips now. It's amazing some of the artists I've found just in the last 6 months. Stuff that I've never listened to, even in that genre, or whatever would have looked for. And it's so readily available, and it gets artists interested in other music. Like you said, you've got an ear for it, you feel it in your soul, and you're like, oh, this
Yes,
is good.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now, what advice do you have for artists that are like, how do they find their target audience if they're looking like, okay, I really dig this music, but they're not a part of the culture that music belongs to?
Yeah.
How do they? But they want to experiment and experience that music and that culture. How do you think people could go about finding that target market so they even know where to start? Now, I'm sorry, target market. I'm a marketing guy, but your audience, the fans. How do you find them?
So yeah, first off, yeah, I'm definitely not the marketing expert or guru. It's been an experience of trial and error and also success along the way. And for me, it's not been overnight to figure out the audience that appreciates my style. The feedback that I mainly get by, is mainly about my voice, which is very soulful. And thankfully, that's been flexible enough to fit into mainly the genres of rock. You could say some soul singing, as we would call, like, the 70s Motown kind of African American style of singing, which I really resonate with on a soulful level and a spiritual level. So, yeah, the messages that I get in my inbox on social media are mainly about my voice and just the fact that I sing soulfully and beautifully, but then there's also this edge to it that's I that I think is very important. But I think the suggestion I have is that first of all, everyone deserves love, and Bad Bunny said it on the Grammy stage when he won his Grammy about a year ago, I believe. It really resonated with me. He's like, "Love. This is only a product of love," is what he said, and you will feel it. That I think for me is what's been giving me direction. It's the light and the love. I've been following that, and it started with me putting a few what you would call I'm not going to call it amateurish, but I posted a few videos when I restarted on social media pre-pandemic. I think it was around 2018, 2019. I took a break before that from social media and was just kind of traveling and living life. And I made a move from the East Coast to the West Coast during that time. So, but once I got settled, I just started experimenting with that. And I started getting you'll see the engagement just organically happen, and people will react. And I'm telling you, I'm one of those. I don't care what people say. I think that talent and content will always remain king. You put in all the technology you want. You can put in all the marketing. I'm sorry, nothing against you. I know you're the marketing expert, but I think you would agree from a marketing perspective. This is the business of art. It's the business of creativity and making it commercial. And people, they will recognize, for example, an AI voice over the phone or an AI voice in a song. They will hear it. So people will react always to great content, great talent. And that's something that's been driving me and attracting the audience that I have able to accumulate. It's not the biggest audience. It's I'm on a micro influencer level still, but it's my passion to keep growing and keep thriving and sustaining and just keep creating, because I had that creative bug and I've had to draw boundaries with it. It's crazy. It's been a journey doing that. When you're creative, it's hard to control, the creativity flowing so much, but you have other responsibilities in life and everything. So but yeah, I think that's coming back to what I was saying. It's the love and the light that I think will give you the direction for finding your audience.
That couldn't be more perfectly said. Thank you for that. So what hurdles have you faced with having your own style of music, the soul fusion as you call it? What hurdles have you faced, like you said, with labels be looking for specific things? But other than that, in general, what have you had to deal with?
So I try not to be too concrete about making hard conclusions in this industry, or making focusing on the hard truth. But my intuition does tell me sometimes the industry is a little racist, and I have an ethnic name, and I sometimes think like, dude, why couldn't you say yes? Or, why didn't this happen or that happen? And you can never prove those things as well. It's hard to prove. It's like it's such a, I don't know what the word is. It's not a hard fact or something like that. But you might have times when you're sitting down and you're evaluating and you're kind of reflecting. And I am a really positive person. I don't like to emphasize or focus too much on what is not working. I don't like to focus on the loss. I like to keep moving forward and focusing, like I said, the direction that I'm being pulled towards. And you need support. You need an audience. That's what should be, pulling you forward and making you grow as an artist. And you could be somebody who has like the most quirky kind of music. Just keep at it. There will be days when you feel like the answer is no, and you're like, I can't do it, I'm tired, or you hear that like negative voice in your head. I ignored it. I'm like, no, make a baby step forward. If you're itching to create something, even on my DAW, there are days when I'm like, I feel weird if I don't pick up my guitar, or if I don't even warm up my voice, or if I don't even add a track to my song on the DAW. It feels weird. So I try to make a baby. I always just try to take a baby step forward. And sometimes you'll also feel like you're trying to beat the odds. Like there's this expectation in the industry that music has to go a certain way in order for, like, example, Gen Z to react to it on TikTok, right? They do go for specific content, which is very short form. It has to have a strong hook. And I try not to get lost in that as well. I think that's been a hurdle. I think it's important to have catchy music, but I'm like, what if I was watching a movie and there was this really smooth ethno jazz. I didn't even know that was a genre before, and I heard it in the movie called Nickel Boys, and at the end, towards the in the end credits, and I was like, this is really cool. It's a vibe, but it doesn't have a strong hook, right? So I think one of the hurdles is that you might get all kinds of advice. Do this, do that, because this is what you're supposed to do. But sometimes you'll just make something and it is what it is. And it might still gain traction. And like I even remember posting a video which would be considered very boring, but people were reacting to it because maybe the video they saw before was like really fast paced, and then they got to my peaceful, soulful song and they're like, oh, doesn't have a strong hook, right? Like it doesn't fit into the boxes of, you're not marking the boxes off for what social media content should be like. So I think it's been a hurdle to kind of tune out those voices and really just try to find a middle ground for it all. I think that's really important.
Well, yeah, like you said, listening to feedback's always important. Whether it's good feedback, bad feedback, or whether we take it or the advice or not, feedback is important, especially with a type of music that isn't that strong hook built stuff. So you don't have that. It's not going to be used as a sound on TikTok. It's not going to be able to be a flashy 30-second reel on Facebook. So you've got to find other ways to keep moving forward with that and get it out there. It's just a matter of finding the right thing. And like you said, though, I mean, don't change it just to try to make it fit in somewhere for the marketing.
Yeah.
The thing about marketing is it doesn't have to be a dirty word and it doesn't have to be painful. Is you have to build your marketing around what you have. You can't market all music the same way. You're not going to be able to market music that's not, hook, bass driven, stuff like that, into stuff like the TikTok sounds and stuff like that. You have to find other avenues, and there's nothing wrong with that. People made music and made a lot of money off it long before TikTok. And they're going to long after it's gone. So I applaud you for what you do, because I mean you're an incredible artist.
Thank you.
It's so unique, but it's still. It has a vibe that still it fits in elsewhere, though, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? It's unique, but it's not like off the wall where you're like, where it's risky. Like, do I like it or not? But like, it's unique enough, and it's got that soulful where it vibes with. There's other music involved, and I'm sorry, I'm just kind of like fanboy. It's really incredible. You're an incredible
so much,
artist.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate that so much. I'm really happy to hear that. I always love positive feedback, and just I love fans. I still am like that old school, like it is my dream to be like not a celebrity, but like rock star, and like singing in an arena and hearing fans cheering to my music and stuff like that. That is my dream. And I will never let, anything stop that. I think that's something I have to achieve before I leave planet Earth. I don't care how old I am, even if I'm like, an older, retired person. But I'm really happy to hear that. And I think you mentioned something else, like, I'm pretty sure that nobody ever thought that an artist like Rema would have his song be heard on the radio. Afrobeats were something new. We could do that with Indian beats or with, South Asian beats in general. And, I'm not somebody who's looking to change people's taste in music. I think they should be exposed to my kind of music so that they sort of open their heart and their mind to the possibility of what music can do and what it can make you feel. It's so funny because I'll play like a ball, like I've seen it. Oh, I'll even do this to my friends, and I've seen it in IG stories where the Indian dude will play the flute from some Bollywood song for his white friend, and the white friend's like, "Oh, you took me to a different world." And it's like so peaceful and so romantic and heavenly, which is like not what all music does, but it's like it created this new sensation and feeling for the white friend. And I was like, that's so funny. Like, and Indian flute is it's a very beautiful spiritual instrument. And so I think anybody who hears it will feel this sudden peace overcome them. So yeah, that's like my only goal, like, to not necessarily, influence people, but kind of create this possibility and, this world. And you might have heard this when you were hearing my music. I've heard feedback there that people get this sense like they're traveling to a different space, or there's this feeling of freedom and escape. There are spiritual elements. And then I've even done something where I had like the Punjabi Indian influence in the song. But I took the singing, I just, made it acoustic, where I played it with my electric guitar on Instagram. And this is one of my videos that did really well on Instagram. And it was just kind of like this bluesy soul kind of singing. And you would never think that it could be a fusion track originally. So that's the power of music. Like, you can lift melodies and rhythms and separate them and put this with that. And you can make it happen so long as, like, the science or the math of it makes sense. It does have to be. There's two rules that my teacher has taught me. You have to be in tune. You have to stay in your key for the most part. And it rhythmically does need to make sense. And maybe you might step out of your key, but that also has to make sense. It has to sound good at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. I'm going to take a sip of my tea.
So, what we were talking about it's every episode ends up being an episode about social media. I mean, it's a marketing podcast, and there is no marketing. It's digital marketing. That's just the world we live in. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, social media, especially the short form stuff, has played such a huge role in the music industry over the past few years, for sure. Like, what trends are you seeing that like, what are you keeping an eye on when you're looking at multicultural music and other genres that you're like, ooh, I might have to dabble. Like, I like that.
Yeah. So things that really stand out to me are things that are artistic, beautiful. Oh, if you're making me feel something soulful and like peaceful, it's like just like that, a feeling. If it makes me feel something. I've heard rock songs where it makes me feel rage. Like, one of my favorite bands from, the 90s is, and the late and into the 2000s is Nickelback. Like, that dude's voice, the lead singer's voice, is just, wow, out of this world. Even the guitar and, the riffs are quite simple if you hear them, and just there's some magic there that you can hear, some spark. I love music that is sometimes acoustically it sounds so wow. It's just, it puts you in a different world. And sometimes they say less is more. So there's another dude who I follow on TikTok who's the lead singer of the Nicotine Dolls. You might have heard of him. Big smoker. might be a reason for why his tone is like out of this world.
There you
and
go.
I relate to him because I do something like that. I'm obsessed with microphones. I've tried like 100 microphones just to see like what makes me as a singer feel comfortable with hearing myself on my my headphones and my voice. And they say the voice is obviously, that's what Adele and Sam Smith, who are my main two inspirations, are recognized for. They're recognized for their voice and their sort of ballad-like singing. So yeah, those are things that I really look out for. Not necessarily look out for. I think the algorithms figured out what when it, the content is coming to me on my feed, it knows what I like as well. So it'll drop in little the videos that are doing well and that are getting a lot of engagement. But yeah, sometimes I step out of the box. I listen to rap and like this old school rap, and like I'm not an encyclopedia for music. Unfortunately, I'm one of those where I have to like Google or look up, but I've heard the song. Like my brain will recognize the song. But there's something about Kendrick Lamar that I'm obsessed with right now. His vocal tone, the way he's like just chattering in front of the microphone. You could tell like his best friend in the studio is his microphone. He's like just like probably just going away like this, like writing all this, all the lyrics, what's coming to him. He's an artist, like it's crazy. And so
yeah, he's well deserving of all those Grammys he's got, without a doubt.
I was watching his award-winning music video. I was like, what is it about this video? There's something so addictive about it. What is it? It's like, and my vocals are trained like, as an African American singer would sing, that very soulful gospel like, voice. And it's so funny that I've stretched this far because my identifiers will go nowhere near anywhere where I'm dabbling when it comes to music, like, so it's interesting that that's the power of creativity. I've given myself that freedom as well to explore, but also know the boundaries where I'm not stretching myself too thin or taking too much of a risk where the feedback might come back from an audience be like, no, this is not for you. So yeah, and sometimes the feedback is bad. Like, and I try to take it with a grain of salt. I'm not big on being self-critical. When trying something new, I'll listen to it. Like, again, the microphone and the headphones are my best friend as a singer when it comes to creating. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go off topic here because you got me interested now in your microphone issues. I want to tell us what have been some good ones? What have you learned from trying out that many different microphones?
I don't want to mention brands because God knows I will be working with these brands. You never know.
Yeah. What have you learned from trying that many though? Because most people they're like, oh, this is what I use because it's what I've always used.
I think a microphone is different for every singer. They will know the microphone that works for them. It is an experimentation. It's taken me a few years to figure out a stable, long-term setup. The other thing is like the audio interface, the DAW you're using, the ambience you're in will make a difference on how you get the feedback when you're listening to yourself, like during the live monitoring. But I've settled on a few. My favorite go-to microphone for like live singing and even recording for social media, you'll see it in my videos, is the Telefunken dynamic microphone because it can take my projection. I'm a loud person when I sing sometimes. Like I can sing very softly, but then I'm a big believer of expressing rage in music. It's a beautiful thing. It's a healthy outlet as well. It's a healthy way to get, frustration and anger out, which we all have. Nobody can deny that. They may not show it or express it, openly, but that's my go-to for projection. And I've used it so many times and it's so reliable. That's what's working for me. And then for recording, I found a Warm Audio condenser microphone. I compared it to a $900 microphone from two very well-known brands, which I won't mention. I returned those both, and I was like, as much as I'm very tempted to keep the very expensive microphone for my home studio, as everybody else would recommend on a professional level, I'm like, no, this is doing it. Like when I'm recording and projecting, and there's this big professional. It still has like everything that a super expensive microphone would have. So that's in my vocal booth right now. And then what else? I have a Fifine Fifine dynamic microphone, which is comparable to a Shure microphone, which you see in every podcast, right? Because that's blown up. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Because that's what you're supposed to have, apparently.
Right. And I'm like, no, this is doing it for $75. It's like I got it for like $30, and I was so happy with. And I'm like not trying to be like too budget friendly, but I was like, just the sound that I'm hearing in my mix and in my social media content was making me pretty happy. It's the ease that it was creating. What else? I think I have a Sennheiser shotgun that you would use for like indie filmmaking. I've used that. Sounds great. It's a very sensitive microphone. I've placed it like in the corner of my room and it picks up my guitar, which doesn't have a preamp, for example, great for acoustics as well. The beautiful thing is, like, I think we also need to break free. We are advertised so much of like, this will work and this will work. And usually the more expensive items are promoted, but you'd be very surprised what a $20 microphone can do for you. And that's how I started off. I used a blue microphone, and sometimes I think it sounded as good as that $1,000 microphone. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get after we're done. I'll have to find out what the one that you use for the projection because I'm loud all the time. I've even got Fortissimo on my voice box.
Nice.
I've been shushed more in
Nice.
my own house than probably Gilbert Godfrey and Bobcat Goldthwait combined. So yeah, I'd have to find out about the mic for projection because I always have audio trouble because I am audio trouble.
You know, you, I mean, I can't tell you, like, I don't like to rely too much on technology at the end of the day. I see even videos where people record directly into their phone and that's it. And, AI apparently is doing noise cancellation and all that good stuff. I just learned that yesterday. I was like, whoa, AI. But I think the natural go to for a podcast would be the Shure, but for some that might be expensive, or just like maybe they don't like the out. Like we're kind of afraid to say that sometimes, like, oh, I wasn't happy with the sound. So, but what microphone do you have right now? It's doing the job for you. Is that Audio Technica? I
Yep.
see. Okay, yeah,
Yep,
I
a
can't. It's a little
T2020.
blurry. The Okay, cool,
Yeah, it's nice.
nice.
It's a lower end one, and it works great. It works
Sounds
really great.
yeah,
I did have.
yeah.
I'll talk about it on here. Why not? I had audio issues on one episode. It's already been released, so people be able to figure out which one it was. I had way too much cable when I first started doing the podcast. I was trying to make do with what I had, so I had like a 25-foot cable from my mic to the power supply, and then another 20 foot from that to my mixer. And we're talking 5 feet away. So the audio was
Woo!
terrible. So I finally cut down to a
Yeah.
10 foot and a 3 foot. Well, something happened with the gain. In all my test video, everything was fine. The guest never said anything. After it was all recorded, I go and listen to it, and it was so blown out, it sounded like I was screaming inside a dumpster full of snare drums. I was
Jeez.
able to get it equalized where I was able to use it. But yeah, if you go and listen to the podcast, you'll be able to figure out which one it was. And I was like, come on.
It's such a, I mean, you should see the amount of wires I have in my room. I'm trying to be a minimalist and like a spiritually non-material person. It's crazy. And yeah, you're right. There was a microphone I was using, like, the sound was like dropping out. And I was like, what? This is like a $500 microphone is supposed to work. Um, it's technology.
It is. All right. So, what advice do you got? We'll wrap it up here. So, what advice do you have for multicultural artists to how to get their music out there, or just for artists that want to check out other music and want to experiment?
So, like I said, I try to be the one who's never giving unsolicited advice in today's world. And, I know I've been told like by my friends, oh, you have like a wisdom and like an enlightening thought about this. And I mentioned, follow the love and the light. And that's been very much the supreme, um, direction for me. That's like what's giving me the direction, the beacon of ray or whatever, your lighthouse or whatever. But, I think you need to follow your intuition. I think, there are days when for lack of a better phrase, it's dark and it's a lot. It's like, I'm like, what am I doing? Multiculturalism? Who believes in that in a country like where there's so much polarization, trying to get back to topic here.
Oh, that's okay.
Because it's going a little hand in hand, because I try not to do too much of like the culture part of it. I try to do more of like the artistic creative side of it, which I think would be more engaging towards people. But I think the funny thing is that I think the biggest lesson that I have found, and I think that will help others, is that I have found support from the places and people where I least expected it to come from, and from a multicultural perspective. So that's to say that sometimes Indian people are not the first to support me. Sometimes it's like the person in the most rural town in California who's reacting to my music, and they're like, "Oh, I really like this. This is great." And I remember going to Joshua Tree, and there's this small creative community, and it's mostly people who are not brown. They were so responsive to a song I sang by the Nobel laureate of India. His name is Rabindranath Tagore, and I'm Bengali Indian, by the way. So he's very much like the icon, the leader of the arts scene in a historic way in the area where my family's from in India. They were like, "Oh, we know who he is." I was like, "What?" I was like, Tagore's poetry and music, and these are like people who you would least expect to know, and they are people who have been very open-minded as artists to dabble into the poetry of an Indian Nobel laureate. I was like, that's incredible. That says something about you. So they've been very supportive on social media, even they react to my videos. So a place where I didn't expect support to come from. And I do have the support of my, South Asian community as well, thankfully. And, it's both a process of learning and growing. Every day is not a smooth road. The industry is changing, so we have to flow with things without the ego involved. That's been hard as well. So that's something I encourage, is to just be not open or too generous, but to not ignore the fact that there is huge possibility. Like there's like a dark side to it, and then there's the light side to it. And I try to follow the light is what I'm saying. Yeah.
That was so well spoken. Thank you. You got such a great vibe. And that's one thing I always try to, with just me in general, and especially with the podcast, is in today's world, it's just, why not be happy? I mean, it's hard to.
Yeah.
It's really hard to. I mean, I'm trying.
I'm trying to.
You have such a great vibe, and it's so,
Yeah, thank you.
And like you said, you're gonna find your people in the weirdest of places, but you got to keep looking. The old saying of is find your tribe, and that's the thing. And you find the people that you're comfortable with, and they might have nothing in common with them. Some of my best friends, we don't listen to the same music, we don't talk about movies, we have nothing in common, but we just vibe, we get along great. And you need to get out there, get out of your comfort zone, and find new people. I mean, if you're not listening, you're not learning. If you're not learning, you're not growing. If you're not growing, what's the point? Sorry.
Growing. I think you had an epiphany there. I think, I think we need, I'm not saying, look, I grew up in a really conservative, not really conservative, I would say more so simple and traditional conservative, and I see it in a positive way, family in small town New Jersey, same areas where Bruce Springsteen is from, by the way, and I feel like you would know his music pretty well. Yeah. And I'm starting to really appreciate his music more and more, because, I think he is all about the underdog and achieving the dream, even during hard times. So I'm like, yeah, let's do that. But I think, I'm hoping that, whether it's a label or a marketing executive, or somebody in the industry or somebody not in the industry, and they're coming from a walk of life, and they're like, we just want to support you because you're doing something really cool and amazing, and it's inclusive, and it's filled with like a lot of love and respect. And creativity and talent, we could do something very magical. And that's the thing. There's no one path to success these days, I think, especially in the marketing world. I see people do things in such a creative way. It blows my mind. And I learn from it. And I'm also like, no, also stay true to you, where you're not trying to do something like somebody else and think that's the only way to success or whatever. I'm also big on abundance, because that's the world I think, like I said, there's a dark side to digital marketing. It can be overwhelming. There's mental health challenges, but then there's also so much abundance. There's so much possibility. It's crazy. It is overwhelming to think about it. Yeah.
That's for sure. Oh, excuse me. All right. So, what do you got coming up that you'd want to talk about?
So all my updates are on my Instagram and Facebook. it's the username or IG or the handle is at Rohini Works. I was kind of trying to go for like a Disney Works fireworks kind of thing, and Rohini's the name of a star. You'll see it on my website, the whole star astro theme, the
Cool.
astronomical theme.
Your website's laid out really cool and really user
Thank
friendly.
you.
A lot of artist
Yes, yeah,
websites, if they have
yeah,
them, most people just do like a link tree or something nowadays. So
yeah, yeah.
it's set up really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I tried to. I know I don't do it like everybody else, but it has like the star background and like I'm obsessed with auroras. I've never seen one in real life. It's on my bucket list. But yeah, my parents named me Rohini, name of a star in real life, and so I don't know if that was intentional.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be.
It's so cheesy. It's so cheesy. It's like two in the face, I think. But no, not everybody knows what Rohini means, so maybe they'll figure it out.
At least they didn't like just give you a bunch of expectations right from the start.
Right, right.
Thanks,
Oh
mom,
my God, I
dad.
wasn't planning to enter music and acting and all that good stuff. But and by the way, the other thing I was gonna say is that yeah, I'm very much into acting. One of my dreams is to do a musical feature to play a lead. We have the executive producer of Crazy Rich Asians and Mulan attached, and so we're promoting that and pitching that like crazy. But yeah, just I do a number of different things. I do little skits, and you'll see it all at Rohini Works. I do perform at local venues in Los Angeles, across Southern California. I've performed in Joshua Tree. Just reach out to me. I will respond. I'm very active on social media. I'm pretty good at responding within a day or two. And I just love meeting both like minded people. And if you're very different, don't feel scared. You know, doors are open, and we're not in some small cave anymore where, you know, people don't see each other's great work. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It has been an absolutely great episode. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you for watching, and we will, of course, always be back, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you.